Okay, welcome to the Warcraft news. We have a big episode today with even more delve changes this week, brand new class changes coming Tuesday, Burning Crusade Timewalking, Mythic Plus, and the drama around Keystone Master, more 11.0.5 news, Datamines, and so much more. My name's Sky from the Comeback Kids. We got your news today. Grab a cup of coffee, sit down. We got a lot to discuss. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, we've been streaming live, our War Within talk show, talking just about everything going on every week, every Wednesday night. It has been great so far. We're trying to break the record of 100 live viewers. So if you guys are interested, please come and tune in every Wednesday. I would really love it. You don't got to donate. You don't got to do any of that crap. Just come hang out, enjoy each other's company. I promise you won't be disappointed. Okay, starting off with one of today's major headlines, we have upcoming class changes coming to the War Within on September 24th. Now, starting off with a few minor ones, Death Knight's Rider of the Apocalypse with their Trollbane Ice Fury slow, it will now get reduced to 40% rather than 70%. I think we can all agree that needed a nerf there. Druid is once again getting rampant ferocity nerfs to where the damage will now be within 8 yards of the Druid rather than 8 yards of the target, which is interesting. It feels like every week we're getting changes on that ability. Finally, Restoration Druid is also getting some healing increase to their healing by 4%, so nothing too crazy here. But for Hunter, Beast Cleave's damage is being increased from 80% to 90%, as well as Kill Cleave's damage is being increased from 80% to 90% as well. So if you're a Beastmaster, it looks like your stock is continuing to rise. Thankfully, Fire Mage is getting some buffs as well, with their Flame Strike damage being increased by 15%, Phoenix Flame damage being increased by 20%, as well as Living Wet Noodle also being increased by 10%, which is also known as Living Bomb. Just remember, an increase of 10% of 0 is still 0. And honestly, I think they need to rework the talents for Living Bomb on this one because it is just not doing well at all. Frost Mage in general is getting some damage increases, with the Glacial Spike damage being increased by 20%, as well as Ray of Frost damage being increased by 15% as well. Considering both these classes are dead last on the logs as of this week, it looks like they definitely both need it. Lastly, for Shadow Priest, they are getting a nuclear 4% damage increase across the board. So I guess we'll have to see what this does for the spec. I do think there are classes out there that need a little bit more work rather than slight percentage damage increase. I'm talking about, Shadow Priest, Fire Mage, stuff like that. So hopefully these classes get it in the future. But now, let's dive into Delves. Now listen, I'm not going to lie, Delves have been a bit all over the place since launch, whether they, have been completely overtuned and you're just getting one-shotted by a lot of things in there, or they're really undertuned and you're just steamrolling the content with your new friends. Well, it seems like they're starting to find that middle ground because we just got even more Delve hotfixes this week with some bug fixes to Bran and buffs to his health and damage, as well as solo Delves being nerfed, reducing all the HP of bosses in there, as well as elites in the instance. Now, Blizzard put out a post earlier this week pretty much stating that they were giving some hotfixes to Bran, including a more consistent baseline of power scaling across Delves. You can actually see it highlighted on screen here. They developed a hotfix that will correct the bug of Bran inheriting all the health and damage bonuses meant for enemies in a higher tier Delve, so it will now be more consistent. Additionally, they've actually gotten feedback that Bran was just unimpactful when he was unbugged. Therefore, with them fixing the bug, they increased his health and damage by 125% across all tiers. I will say, during my time of doing Delves about a week ago, it was pretty random whether it felt like I was just steamrolling it or I was just getting my butt whooped in there over and over again. I think a big part of that had to do with the scaling of Bran and, the bugs going on with this, so hopefully that makes a difference. Now, when it comes to Delves getting nerfed in particular and the actual instance by yourself, they actually put out a hotfix not too long ago that reduced the health of elite mobs and mini bosses and bosses in general. So now, elites had their health reduced by 30%, bosses had their health reduced by 16%, and mini bosses have been nerfed as well. The only thing that didn't change were regular mobs. Those were completely untouched. Once again, I think this is a good change because fighting a boss that has like 70 million HP in a tier 8, honestly, on your own, just made the boss just feel like a giant sponge rather than it being like skill based and you learning the boss. So I think this is definitely a big win because it was out of control at one point. Overall though, I will say I think a lot of players are really happy with Delves at the moment. Personally, it's one of my favorite forms of content in the game. I don't need to stress out. I don't need to find a bunch of people or a group. I don't need to have an item level requirement. I don't need to wait on anything. It's just great. I dive on in, go play the game. I think the balancing of it is actually really nice as well. I was actually doing Delves on my Shaman and my Mage, and they're both roughly around 570 item level. So I was completing tier 8 around 570 item level, getting those juicy 603 pieces. It was a bit challenging, but man, it was so rewarding. Absolutely loving it so far. Additionally, if you are a caster DPS, your best in slot weapon actually comes from delves, and it is known as the Fate Weaver, and it's an offhand item. This offhand actually is really interesting because it has an on-use effect that performs a weaving ritual, spins the web of fate, and fashions them into a suitable fate-weaved main hand weapon. So pretty much what this means in simple terms is that you press the on-use effect of the offhand, you also get an epic main hand as well, which is really, really cool. Luckily enough, I actually got this last night on my Fire Mage, and boy, oh boy, does this thing slap. The on-use effect equals out to like a 5% total DPS increase completely on its own without counting, you know, the stats and everything else. So if you keep track of your damage and everything like that, you know that 5% on just an on-use effect is very, very big damage. So definitely a big win there. It also has its own little, you know, secret quest where you have to go to a certain spot to craft the weapon, which is cool. Definitely felt like I was back in Classic. It was really neat. Now, lastly, for delves, for you people that really love to do this content solely, it was noted on Wowhead that the fastest delves to run in the War Within are the Takrathon Abyss in Azj-Kahet, as well as the Spiral Weave in Azj-Kahet as well. Both of these delves are very straightforward, they're simple, very, very short in duration as well. So if you're looking to get your Great Vault up and have your option of, you know, getting 3 different types of 616 items, this is definitely your way to go. Go spam these, you know, and get your Great Vault up. Okay, now moving on to this week, we have a very fantastic opportunity at getting some easy loot with the Burning Crusade Timewalking event. Yes, that is right, because this event is only going to be here until Tuesday, the 24th of September. But boy, oh boy, if you haven't already, you have got to get your butt in Black Temple. Something a lot of players overlook as well is that you can actually grab both the Timewalking quests and complete them at the same exact time for some big rewards. One of them is from Dornogal at the weekly questing hub, as well as the other one from Shatrath in Burning Crusade. Like we said, you complete both of them at the same time, just simply doing the Black Temple raid and have your free loot of a free 597 champion piece of gear, as well as a super juicy 610 hero piece of gear as well. This doesn't include all the different items that you can actually acquire from the raid as well, so with, you know, this raid being really, really easy and you're just going to steamroll it with a bunch of, you know, random people, it's going to be a major, major win in trying to get all those options of loot. So if you have no idea what you're doing or how to queue up for it, simply you go to the Looking for Group tab and go to the Legacy Raid section, and you're looking for people forming groups for the Black Temple Timewalking Raid. While you're waiting, grab both the quests from Dornogal and Shatrath, and you're good to go. You'll get the queue pop in just a minute. You'll go in there, steamroll everything, and have your opportunity to have 597 champion gear from any of the bosses, as well as a guaranteed 597 from the loot chest, and a guaranteed hot off the press 610 heroic item level loot from the chest as well. I've been pretty much spamming this across all of my alternate characters because you could do it at least once on everybody you have, and I've been getting so many juicy rewards just shooting up my item level like crazy for doing like 30 minutes of work. It is absolutely mandatory. Definitely go check it out. Not only that, you can also start staving up your time walking currency to use in the 11.0.5 event that comes out next month. So if you haven't already, easiest way to get gear this week, grab both of these quests in Dornogal and Shatrath, do the Black Temple raid, and you are good to go. Speaking of easy though, we're going to be moving focus now and shift it toward the Keystone Master in Season 1 of the War Within. Now, typically getting Keystone Master hasn't been, you know, something that isn't too easy. It's not really obtainable by a lot of players, but it seems like it could be this case in our very first season of the War Within. Now, Keystone Master is a very popular goal for many WoW players out there, considering Mythic Plus, you know, also being amongst one of the most popular content features in the game. Now, for Season 1, the goal is to actually achieve a 2,000 Mythic Plus score across all of your Mythic dungeons combined, and you're able to actually earn the Diamond Mech Suit mount, which looks really, really nice. Also, if you haven't already, if you complete the Keystone Master, you get awarded with the Mark of Spelunker Supreme, which equals out to a free heroic tier piece of your choosing, which is absolutely game-changing if you get a tier set. If you don't remember, there are a couple different ways of also getting this by, you know, completing the raid on heroic difficulty or getting 1600 in PvP. Now, in order to obtain a War Within Keystone Master for Season 1, it will require you to not only reach a time +7 or even a depleted +8 key on every dungeon on average. If you didn't know, there are many players out there already completing this on week 1, so surprisingly, I'm getting pretty damn close myself. Now listen, by all means, I'm not the greatest WoW player at all. I just found it quite shocking that I was already completing tier 7s on my rogue, and that's what you need to get Keystone Master. Now, for Keystone Hero, on the other hand, it will require you to earn a +10 on every key on average, which of course seems a lot further away than +7s. This will award you with the Luminous Nerubian Catalyst Stone, which allows you to unlock brand new cosmetics of your very own personal tier set gear, which I'm excited to see what it looks like. So the question I have for the audience and yourself is, What do you think about this? Do you think it's way too easy to get Keymaster because all you have to do is +7s? Or do you think it's too hard? Do you think it's overtuned? Do you think it's just right? I'm dying to hear your thoughts because it's a very hot topic in the forums and the community right now, especially because Mythic Plus is among some of the most popular content in the game, and I definitely want to hear your opinion. Additionally, when it comes to Mythic Plus, this may be a little bit of a hot take here, but trying to gear up through Mythic Plus by completing keys 0 through 6 feels infinitely times harder than simply doing your bountiful delves at tier 8. The reason I say this is because you have so much more risk when you're trying to run a Mythic Plus. You have to, look for a group that seems good enough to complete your key. You have to make sure no one disconnects or rage quits. You have to, make sure everybody knows the fight so they don't just constantly die and cost you precious time. There are a lot of factors and risks that come with completing a Mythic Plus, and I feel like at the end, most of the time, you don't even get any loot, so the risk versus reward seems pretty damn lopsided. Listen, the only time I personally feel like it's worth it to run a Mythic Plus is starting at around tier 7, where you get guaranteed 610 hero level loot, which in my opinion is the big game changer here and what separates Mythic Plus for a lot of the other content. I know you got to get a Mythic score up. I know what you guys are talking about. I'm not saying to never do it. I'm just saying try to avoid it if you can, because it is a ginormous time sink here. If you want to check out a video recently that we did diving a little bit more about this and how to gear up and all that, you can check it out. It's on screen here. Now, speaking of gearing up, this week we'll also have access now to the unlocked story mode version of Nurabar Palace, which if you complete it, gives you access to a 619 Harbinger crest that you can use at a crafting order vendor to get absolutely nasty loot on your character. So if you're wondering why or how everyone has 619 gear, listen up, because this is one of the ways. Now, if you're unaware, yes, there's a brand new difficulty for the latest raid called Story Mode that you can do entirely on your own. You do not need a raid with you. It starts from getting a quest from Webster in Dornogal right before you enter the tunnel toward the Ringing Deeps. And in order to access this quest, you got to complete the first chapter of the campaign story, which most of us have done already. It gives you a quest called Our Chance to Strike, where you will then go to Ajkahet and turn it in at the City of Threads, where you begin a very short quest chain. You complete the quest and get an additional series of quests that you need to complete over and over again. The quest to complete in order is as follows. It'll be on screen here. It's with a spy like us, the defense of the people, and make them pray quest. And then lastly, you get a final quest called A Shot at the Top. After you do all those 4 quests, it takes about 10 minutes. You then get to kill a queen, which is the quest you're actually looking for. If you're confused, we labeled it for you on screen, so just Alt-Tab between this and the game, you should be good to go. Once you get this quest, you talk to the NPC on your map, and boom, you're inside the raid. My absolute favorite part about this, though, has to be that this is all completely soloable, and if you're actually in a raid group made up of entirely NPCs, which I think was such an awesome experience. It was very interesting to see. I think it'd actually be really cool if Blizzard took this same concept and sort of translated it into some of the older raids in the game that, a lot of players didn't get to experience, the opportunity. And I think it'd be a really nice way to, have new players dive into some of the epic bosses and battles that a lot of us have fought back in the day. Don't get me wrong, I do think it'd be very hard to tune this and, make it right, because the NPC raid boss fight that I did for Queen Ansaric, it was pretty much trivial, but I'm not really sure how they would make it balanced. But anyways, I honestly do think it would be a really cool idea. Go run some old content with an NPC raid group just for the fun of it. So let me know what you think about that in the comment section below too. So yes, you killed the last boss, Queen Ansaric, in the raid on story mode. You get the free 619 Harbinger quest that you then use at a crafting order. Get a 619 piece of gear. Massive, massive upgrade. Typically, what a lot of players are doing right now when they don't have hero weapons is simply use this on a two-hander or a one-handed weapon, depending on your class, to get a pretty damn big power spikes. And speaking of power spike, moving on now, we have a brand new updated list of raid logs. And yes, with a lot more data under our belt, there have been some massive changes so far this week that we have to dive into, starting off with some of the new kings on the block. Enhancement Shaman shooting up to the top DPS slot in heroic Nurabar Palace, as well as Destruction Warlock making one of the most insane comebacks I've ever seen in WoW history, shooting up from near the bottom to all the way up to near the top, which is very interesting. Last week, Destruction was not doing well, and it looks like all the changes and updates to gear are definitely helping them out. Of course, we have both warrior specs dominating as well, and surprisingly, Devastation Evoker shooting up a ton on the list also. If you're one of these classes right now, you are in one of the best spots in the game when it comes to heroic rating, and it seems like things are going to keep looking that way heading into the next tier. Retribution Paladin fell down a few slots after the latest nerfs to Dawnlight, and it looks like Subtlety Rogue is now the #1 rogue spec in the game in heroic, with Outlaw Rogue nerfs pretty much hitting them really hard across the board. Moving on now to the middle of the pack, we don't really have many changes here other than Beast Mastery shooting up a few slots, Elemental Shaman and Windwalker dropping down a little bit, and Unholy Death Knight staying about the same. A very big surprise, however, is the Havoc Demon Hunter shooting up about 6 slots on the DPS chart, really pushing them above and beyond what they previously were, which is really nice to see. Of course, Outlaw Rogue, we see them drop significantly, as well as Assassination Rogue and Survival Hunter staying about the same, which really isn't a surprise to anyone, considering they didn't get any changes. Heading to the bottom of the pack now, still, yet again, we have Feral and Balanced Druid, Shadow Priest, Demonology Warlock, as well as Fire and Frost Mage. I'm not gonna lie, these are just specs that aren't doing too well right now and could definitely use some adjustments. Of course, 11.0.5 isn't too far away, and I'm really hoping these classes either get some redesigns to their hero talent tree or just some adjustments overall, because pretty much every class here at the bottom of this list has stayed in the bottom DPS bracket for the last like 2-3 months, including the beta and the launch. So either somebody's getting neglected or somebody at Blizzard's getting paid, because I don't know what's going on. For healers, the only major thing is that Preservation Evoker has taken the top spot over Holy Paladin, and Disciplined Priest has officially dropped below Resto Shaman. Once again, Mistweaver Monk as well as Restoration Druid are near the bottom, sadly, but good news for Restoration Druid, they are getting some buffs and changes, heading to 11.0.5, which is going to be very soon. When it comes to tank logs, surprisingly, Protection Warrior is surpassing Vengeance Demon Hunter in overall damage right now, which is actually very interesting considering Vengeance's whole shtick is the fact that they're constantly the highest DPS tank in the game. Combine that with, you know, Prot Warrior just being naturally very beefy and very tanky, they're banging right now inside of a raid. Additionally, Brewmaster Monk as well as Guardian Druid have jumped up a couple spots, while sadly, Blood DK has dropped day by day, which is very odd to see. Something that isn't hard to see, though, is that Protection Paladin is officially now on the bottom of the list when it comes to damage. And if you combine that with their, lack of tanking capability and defensives, they aren't looking too great for them. Hopefully they get some updates and changes soon. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, those are the DPS, healer, and tank logs for this week. Of course, we're going to be breaking this down in a very in-depth video soon, probably upcoming on Tuesday, so definitely look out for that. Now, looking ahead of that toward the future, we have some interesting new updates toward 11.0.5 and some current changes going on currently as well. As of the other day, we got some rather small changes toward Mage and Warrior, with Mage getting some minor nerfs to Arcane Blast damage being reduced by 5%, and Arcane Missiles damage being reduced by 8%. When it comes to Fury Warrior, all of their ability and damage is now reduced by 3% as well. Overall, these don't really seem to be impacting them that much on the meters because they're definitely some of the top DPS in the game still in, Heroic and Mythic. I'm not really sure what they're trying to get at here. When it comes to 11.0.5, it looks like we have some ultra rare cosmetics coming into the game that we're going to be able to pick up. I'm not going to lie, there are a lot of amazing options here for gear that you're able to purchase. Blizzard added scaled up versions of extremely rare items, so now we get finally those awesome transmogs that we never had the chance to grab back in the day. For example, key items like the Pendulum of Doom, the Bow of Searing Arrows, the Light Forge Blade, the Warden Staff, the Fury Axe, and so much more. I love when they add things like this into retail because, I'm the type of player that likes to play all versions of WoW. I play Classic, I play Retail, and I do that like every 6 months at this point. So it makes me want to transmog my character like I have them in Classic every once in a while. I absolutely love this being added into the game. Additionally, it looks like the Obsidian Worldbreaker mount is returning as well for the 20th anniversary. So if this is something you never got also, it's definitely going to be on your shopping list. Lastly, we had some class changes over on the PTR as well. Nothing too crazy here. Starting off with Hunter, some notable changes include the Dark Ranger talent tree. Extra black arrows from Withering Fire will now apply the periodic effect, which is good, as well as Marksmanship Hunter with Wailing Arrow no longer consuming trick shots. For the Mage, some visuals are getting upgraded like Time Warp and a couple of other things, as well as the Spellslinger hero talent tree getting buffed for both Arcane and Frost. No changes to Fire, sadly, which is odd because they are one of the worst DPS in the entire game, so hopefully they get some updates soon. Lastly, you have Shaman with Molten Thunder, which is their brand new talent, having a chance to trigger being increased by 60%, which pretty much just means for Enhancement Shaman, they'll get more procs to instantly reset the cooldown of Sundering, which means more AoE damage for them, and overall just a lot of, improvements for the Totemic Hero talent tree, which is great. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, a lot to break down in this week's news video. I think Delves are actually going to get in a really nice spot with all of these adjustments. I mean, I was just clearing tier 8s literally last night on my Demon Hunter, my Shaman, and my Mage, and they all have garbage item levels sitting at like 570, so it should be a lot better for a lot of the more casual and normal players out there. Burning Crusade Timewalking is changing the way you gear up right now, so make sure you go and run Black Temple. I'm also very curious to hear all your opinions on the whole Keystone Master drama. Do you think it's too easy? Do you think it's just right? Do you think it's too hard? You guys gotta let me know in the comment section below. I do think it's a little too easy. I think level 7 is really low considering we have like a month and a half of the season left, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to hear your opinions and, see what goes from there. By the way, also thank you guys so much for enjoying the last news video. It broke over 1,200 different likes from all of you in the community. It means so much that you guys are enjoying the content, so thank you. Anyways, I hope you guys have a very safe weekend. Happy Saturday. God bless every single one of you. Until the very end, my name is Sky from the Comeback Kids. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace. Hey, hope you enjoyed the video. Listen, if you guys enjoyed the content, we have a ton of other videos to help you get through the war within, like these two right here. And since you're already here, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button to join the Comeback Kids family today, because every subscriber matters. Thank you all so much for enjoying the video. I'll see you in the next one.